Good evening, comic friends. It's me, Comic Crack. It's Monday night. It's not Sunday night. We had our chat this afternoon over on La Rasa's channel. Life and work and all sorts of stuff stopped us from doing our chat on Sunday. So for the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be doing a chat Monday afternoons. And then I will talk to you Monday nights. So if you want to go check out the conversation, go on over to Ross's channel and have a listen there. We'll be on my channel next week. Right out of the gate, before we get into anything, a huge, huge shout out to our friend Colin Blanchette and his partner in crime there on this, Alex Eklund. Issue number 2 of Canon. Oh, look at this, Colin Blanchette in the room. Be prepared to blush. So this is the second issue of Canon, and it's just as good, if not better than the first one. I've only had a quick flip through this. I'm hoping to get to sit down and read it tomorrow, but it looks incredible. Same format, same size as the previous. Colin will correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like this is a bit of a thicker issue than last time around. What do we have? 56 glorious pages this time. Really nice kind of table of contents there, showing you who is all included in this. And then, of course, at the back, we get a quick couple of words about each of the contributors. The same gang of idiots included in this one: Colin Blanchette, Alex Eklund, Gary Usher, Ray Carcasis, Ryan Carey, the one, the only T. Fuller, and then Brad Curry is occasionally on Twitter. And then bibliography of some of the interviews there as well too, and a new, what looks like a new little column here: Shots Fired, reviews with Alex and Colin. Just brief little paragraphs about some books that they've been reading lately. So it looks amazing. I'm really honored to be involved in this in my meager way. But this looks like some really good shit in here, Colin. Really nice job, as you did with the first one. I think this one is even better, and it's only going to go up from here if you decide to do some more. Fingers crossed that there is more in the works. Here's this guy. So here's my piece for this one. Just a 3-pager this time. Writing isn't my forte, so I put together as much as I possibly could. Even did some hand lettering, and look at this shit. Jesus, the kid's on fire. Anyway, Canon number 2. You can get it. Contact Colin, on Twitter or on Instagram. There's his YouTube handle as well too. Write us at loadingthecanon@gmail.com, and I'm sure that's where you can get information on buying it. Order Canon at canonzine.bigcartel.com. Of course, there's wholesale orders as well. Third one for sure. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. A third one for sure. So there you go. Good luck with this one. I can't wait to sit down with it. So there you go. Canon number 2. On to what I read this week. I'm going to start off with a double shot here because I feel like these two worked really well back to back. Rasa and I were talking about Rick Remender and his ability to kind of put together a really nice story. As far as like pacing goes, his pacing is really good. We were also talking about Kaya, how it's not the most complex story, but it's highly entertaining. We ended up talking about the new Star Wars show, Ahsoka. I blanked on the name there. And just kind of what makes up a good story and what makes up good TV. I feel like these two issues, especially back to back, are not only kind of classic, kind of good stories, just they would make good TV episodes. They felt like kind of that classic TV episodic television type of storytelling. There's nothing mind-blowing going on here. They're not breaking new ground with storytelling. They're not breaking new ground with page layouts. They are what they are. They are what they're presented as. They're not looking to be anything more than just entertaining comics. And of course, always love this. Actually, seeing some ads in this one, I might have seen, maybe it was in this one. I saw some ads for some iron-ons. Yeah, and I ended up looking on eBay just to see. Oh, look at that, the staples out from there. Surprise. Just to see what was out there. There's a whole bunch of places that are offering these kind of vintage iron-ons. I found some bowling ones I may end up getting for the bowling team. I found a good kind of half dozen real cool looking ones. So anyway, not too much to talk about these story-wise, but I really was entertained by these books. I've got a bunch of the Yang comics. I haven't read all of them yet. This one I decided to just sit down and give it a read. This is writer Joe Gill, artist Warren, does that say Sattler, I believe? Sattler. And, you know, we have our kind of classic Western / samurai tale of a lone, or kung fu, if we want to go to television. Our kind of lone, not quite man with no name, but that type of person, you know, littlest hobo for any of you Canadians out there. A guy that wanders around town to town, finding out what the issues are, and punching some goofs in the face and sorting things out for the fine citizens, and everybody ends up happily ever after at the end of this one. Yeah, just a really fun read. Some nice looking comics here. Jack Frost, more of the same. This one maybe a little more on the gritty edge of classic television. Rogue cop, badass detective, however you want to put it. This is a page that I showed this afternoon too. This tripod is really giving me some issues here. Blood for My Brother, Chapter 1. It was dark. There was someone in the house. I could smell her. I awoke, reached under my pillow for the 45 that I kept there. Thumbed the safety, coming up to fire twice into the room. My first two were warning shots. Jack, it's me, Nancy. Please don't shoot. I didn't mean to surprise you. Your door was open. Amazing stuff. I love this panel here. I just really get a kick out of all this going on, showing him springing from the bed. Motherfucker pulls off 2 shots. And there you go. There's our thumbnail for this one. Really good. I know there was a few comics. I have another one that's just called Frost. I don't remember if it was Caliber who put that one out. I think there was another issue in this Amazing Comics Jack Frost, 1 or 2. I have to take a closer look. But again, it's not pretending to be anything than it is. Just entertaining, quick little comic book story. And I really dug it. So yeah, very, very fun reading off the top there for this week. Another nice one was Batman, The Adventures Continue. This is season 3, issue number 8. This is the final issue of this season. I imagine they're going to do more. This has kind of been hot and cold for me, all of this Adventure Continues stuff, even though I've got them all. This was, again, just kind of a satisfactory issue. Reading it, though, I don't remember Talia or Catwoman making an appearance. So I feel like maybe the last one, if not 2 issues, possibly I didn't read. I'd have to go back through my book to see if I had some notes on it, if I put it down in the book. Again, nothing to write home about. Reminds me a little bit of the show. I love Talia al Ghul. I love Ra's al Ghul. I think they're entertaining characters. I really enjoy the dynamics between Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Talia al Ghul. I do like in this one, Catwoman is also along for the ride, so there's a little bit of that jealousy at play as well, too, between the two. Well, Catwoman towards Talia. Talia doesn't seem to give a single shit about Catwoman, doesn't see her as a threat whatsoever. Ra's al Ghul, in his quest to help out society as a whole, has decided to imprison all of the Batman villains down in the caves here. Yeah, it's good, solid stuff. Again, it's these ones haven't impressed me as much as the original animated series comics. Definitely not as much as the animated series show, and not as much as the audio adventures did. This is just kind of standard fare. I feel like this is one of those books that I just pick up without really giving it much of a second thought. I just pick it up more out of habit. I enjoy it, but it's not mind blowing by any stretch. One that I was, well, there's a couple here that we'll talk about. Maybe we'll get them out of the way now. A couple of things here that I wasn't really digging. Daryl D, how are you? Marvel Age 1000. I saw a ad for this one somewhere. I don't remember where. Maybe in the Doctor Strange book that I'm reading. I'm not sure. But they kind of had a list of all of the artists and writers that were going to be contributing to this Marvel Age. Gore Vidal, good evening. What does Bruce see in you? Selena asked Talia. His end and his beginning. Now get out of my sight. So this is the list of who you get within this thick issue. Jason Aaron, Laura and Michael Allred, Kari Andrews, etc., etc., etc. The one name I wanted to put out that was kind of a surprise to me when I saw it, Armando Iannucci. He's written for the Veep. He worked for the wrote for the IT Crowd, I believe. He's written a lot for one of my absolute favorite satirists, Christopher Morris. The Day Today. I think he did some writing for him on The Brass Eye. I don't know if he did anything on Jam. I don't think so. I think that might have been Chris Morris just on his own. So that was kind of a shock to see his name associated with comics. I don't know if it's something he's done in the past, but there you have it. So based on what was going on, I think what I hoped for was something sort of in line with the Alex Ross Marvel comic that he had going, where he was getting a lot of different artists and writers to contribute short stories with various Marvel Comics characters. Whereas that one was really adventurous and there was a lot of fun stuff. I mean, I've got nothing against superheroes, but it's not my go-to. I do find it a little tired sometimes. And this one was really fucking tired. Marvel, it ain't. Even though there's a lot of similar things that they're attempting in this one, there's this kind of let's just really bask in kind of the wonders of superheroes and talk about how important they are to our lives and why we love them and why we still love them, all of that. I feel it was pulled off a lot better with the Marvel book than this one. There's some stuff in here that's mildly interesting for sure. Some of the art is pretty impressive. There's a couple of artists that really kind of impressed me. But as an overall package, I just didn't dig it. It really didn't do much for me. The stories really felt thin, fell flat. There was a little too much kind of aren't superheroes great type of thing going on for my liking. There was X-Men involved as well. Yeah, like all this. What the hell is this? I didn't even read that one. There you go. It's the longest story in there, of course. Let's flip past the horrors of the X-Men. Captain Marvel. This is Dan Slott and Michael and Laura Allred. Always love Allred's art and coloring, so that was entertaining enough. But again, what I think this is a good example, actually. What the Marvel book did was there were some characters in there that I might not be interested in at all. They made those stories somewhat interesting and kind of caught my attention. Whereas this, I don't know anything about the Captain Marvel character, really. I don't really care about the Captain Marvel character. I don't care any more about the Captain Marvel character after reading this than I did before reading it. So I think that's also where it kind of fell flat for me a little bit. We get a Daredevil. Here's the Armando Iannucci and the artist Adam Kubert on this one. This one had a pretty interesting premise, this idea of Matt Murdock, Daredevil, getting tinnitus and how that just impacted him in an incredibly painful way. We come to find out that the tinnitus happens when someone around him is lying to him. So it's part of his Daredevil senses. And he's just got to, as the doctor says, as I well know, you just have to learn to live with tinnitus. If I focus on it, I can really hear my tinnitus. Most of the time, though, I can't hear it because I've learned to kind of live with it over the years. So the idea of that being something that Daredevil has to deal with is mildly interesting. But again, it's, yeah, it was there and then it was over. This is one that impressed me the most art-wise. Story and art, Steve McNiven. I really like the looks. This, I think, was the highlight for me out of this whole book. Beautiful, beautiful panels there. I love these elongated panels. I love the textures on the art here. The Silver Surfer looks pretty great with all that cross-hatching there. We'll get you to some other pages here. I think it's the, yeah, here we go. This next spread I thought was really, really well done. Yeah, this is the one. If you were to buy it, this is the one that kind of stood out. The rest of it I could do without. This would be a kind of nice single issue, elaborate on this maybe a little bit more. What else? Here's the Jason Aaron, The Girl Who Hates Superheroes. No surprise to anyone. By the end of it, she turns out she loves superheroes. And Thor becomes her favorite superhero. And then finally, we get a story, Observations from the Backyard, from J. Michael Straczynski and Kari Andrews on art. And it is Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, and Stan Lee, if they all grew up in the same neighborhood and were really good friends. I'll let you figure out who's who there. But they talk about these things that they're seeing in the neighborhood. And when they peep through a fence hole, for example, they see the Fantastic Four, that infamous cover there, recreation of that infamous cover. And they just end up talking about, we'd love to share these stories. Again, it was a little much, but there you have it. And then we end off with this, Aren't Superheroes Fantastic? So, yeah, it didn't do much for me. I'm sure I've sold it to a bunch of you there, but there you have it. I wanted to love this so much. So, oh, sorry. Stupid tripod. I had this issue already, issue number 1. Thirsty's Flea Market. There's a record dealer there who's gotten into buying collections. He recently bought a bunch of stuff from an estate sale. Records, VHS tapes, CDs, a huge collection of comics. Lord Tatman, how are you doing, man? Good evening. And on Friday, he had a pre-sale for a bunch of the local comic addicts groups, the Facebook groups. The deal was, if you went on Friday, you had to buy $100 worth of comics. They were all $2 each. The only thing he did to the collection was take out the Spider-Man. He's a pretty big Spider-Man fan, so he wanted first crack at those for himself. Everything else he didn't go through. He just put it out there. So he's like, there may be minor keys. There may be keys in there. I'm putting it out there, and I just want to start moving stuff. I want to start selling. I worked on Friday and Saturday, so I only got a chance to go yesterday because yesterday was Sunday. And there was some good stuff. I ended up finding a bunch of marquee books, which is great. Only one of them I needed. The other ones I put aside. I'm going to mail them off to Rasa when I mail her issue of Canon. Found a couple of other things too that I won't really go into, but he had, I think he probably had the entire Black Orchid Vertigo series from, this is 93, 94. So I just picked up the next 4 issues to try the first kind of 5 issues. I really, really want to like this book a lot. I love this era of Vertigo. It's right in the beginning of Vertigo. I really like I think it was a 3-issue, maybe it was a 2-issue, kind of the square bound stuff that happened before this. I thought that was a really good story, really engaging art. I like the stuff that I've seen in Adventure Comics, even though it's a much different character than what it is here. Good to know about Black Orchid. Save my money if I come across them. Absolutely. You just read Neil's. Okay. So this is kind of when people complain about this era of Vertigo, a book like this makes me understand exactly why they are not fans of this era of Vertigo. I am a huge Vertigo fan. I know that some of that comes down to a lot of the stuff I was reading when I was a teenager, so I know I have a little bit of a connection to it that way. They were putting out Ted McKeever's stuff. They were putting out Shade the Changing Man, etc., Swamp Thing, all of these things, dipping my toes into things here and there. Pete Milligan, things like that. So I realize I have a connection to it in that way. This, though, I really see what people are saying. The character herself, I think that there's something there with the character. She has this ability to kind of control other people. She releases some sort of pheromones or some sort of scent or some sort of something where she ends up gaining control over people's minds for a period of time, convincing them that she's someone that she isn't, getting them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So I think that there's interesting stuff going on there. This first issue kind of caught my attention because they play around with that. Sorry, I should say the creators on this one. Dick Foreman, Jill Thompson, and Stan Woke. This was the most interesting of the bunch, but I think that's mainly due to my optimism was at its highest point when I started reading these 4 issues. I pretty much read these back to back. I wanted to get a good chunk in just to kind of really get a better sense of it by reading a few issues at once. It dropped off really damn quickly, though. I felt like a lot of the dialogue was pretty forced. It didn't seem natural. It felt like it was trying to be deep and meaningful, and it really just wasn't. I feel like there was some moments where they were trying to be kind of Neil Gaiman-ish with some of the writing, and it just wasn't working. There was these guys here at one point. This what the hell was Logos, I think is the corporation, the name of this. It looks like something Shaky Kane would design. That was kind of interesting there because those look like characters out of a Shaky Kane comic for sure, that panel especially. It just really fell off quickly. The one, I think it's this one here. Yeah, they go and visit. They're on the run from this organization that's looking to get their hands on Black Orchid, or Blackie as she's called for parts of the story here. They go to visit one of her friends. I don't remember where he lives, to kind of try to escape them and buy some time so she can rest when she expends her power in this way. She really needs to kind of regenerate herself. So this issue, we get this character kind of telling his backstory, and they try to mix in kind of like some Greek mythology, I'm guessing, and maybe expound on that or expand on that. And again, like, especially when you're doing something like that, that to me personally is something that a guy like Neil Gaiman is masterful in. He can really create those legends and folklores, kind of like he's breathing. He does it just very easily. This, however, was not that. It really, really wasn't. And they really tried to make this tender moment at the end as she kind of washes away and they've already fallen in love and things. And it's supposed to be this very touching story, and it just wasn't really. So a real bummer, a real big bummer, because I really wanted to get into this. But I guess it's not always going to happen. So there's Black Orchid. On the flip side of that, one that I loved, this was another one I found in the bins there. Issue 1 of 2 of Troy Nixie's Trout. I think this was the first time this character Trout appeared. Troy Nixie, so this is Oni Press, 2001. Yeah, 2001. So in the backup here, we also have in the ads, just to give you a little bit of time frame context, the marquee, Guy Davis's The Marquee, has now been collected. It's a complete collection. Guy Davis, I think after this, has gone on to work with Guillermo del Toro. Troy Nixie got involved with Guillermo del Toro as well, ended up directing a couple of things. I think he's a Canadian from Alberta. He worked on some Hellboy stuff. Was it Jenny Finn that I saw this afternoon? I think that's Hellboy universe related, isn't it? Jenny Finn. Either way, he worked with Mignola. He's worked on a bunch of different comics, even Simpsons comics. There was more Trout miniseries that came out through Dark Horse. I think there was 2 that we found out this afternoon talking to Rasa. 2 4-issue miniseries. I think they've all been collected in one as well. I think those ones are all color though. Dave Stewart, sorry. And then, oh, look at this. Cover colors by Dave Stewart here. So this one, however, is black and white. This was an amazing book. I need to maybe go back and dig through those bins to see if there was a number 2. The problem with kind of going through some of these sales is everything is mixed. He didn't sort anything out. He just kind of put everything out. And you just flip through things. And of course, people take stuff out and put it back somewhere else. So I should really go back to see if I can find issue number 2 in those boxes to see if they exist there. But this was a really, really fun little story. And I think one of the things that made it so entertaining was this gorgeous black and white art. Yeah, Troy Nixie is a name that I'm familiar with. I know that at one time I did have at least one of those miniseries of Trout, but when I looked in the drawers, it's gone, so it didn't survive one of the calls. Kind of a bummer. I'm going to have to look for it again and buy it back, as I'm sure has happened to many people over the years with their collection. But stunning looking work here, and a really nice little story, focusing on this little town, and a traveling puppet show comes through and kind of gets everybody's attention. Parents end up bringing their kids to see this puppet show. What the heck are they called again? Let's see. Make Way for Eraser Mouse. ERASERMUS. So all the kids gather around. Before that, we get introduced to our character Trout, who's locked away in a house. He's very isolated. He doesn't play with other kids. He just spends his time on his own. As far as I can tell, he doesn't talk at all. He's just singing to himself here. But his father, I think, convinces him to come out to see this puppet show, catches his interest. So all the townsfolk bring their kids, and we get a little look at these puppets, Punch and Judy sort of looking characters there. They put the kids in a trance, singing them a song, kind of puts them in this little bit of a trance, and they all get really sleepy and end up falling asleep here on this page, only to be awoken later that night, and they end up wandering the streets back to these puppeteers. Yeah, here we go. So you can see them walking the streets where they get their souls sucked out from them. But the only one that's not affected, of course, is Trout. And before leaving town, they decide they're going to put on one more special show just for Trout. And we kind of close with him just walking through the streets. But he hasn't fallen under their spell nearly in the same way that the other kids have. So really nice little story. Gorgeous art. Oni Press from 2001. Worth checking out if you can find it. What else do we have? We have issue 2 of The Sickness. Another book, well, maybe not another. This is a book that I'm unsure. I was really sold on issue number 1. I still like this book. I'm still on board with this book. When I say I'm unsure of what exactly I'm reading here. I found this issue fairly confusing. There's a couple of different storylines happening. I probably realized it in the first one and maybe have forgotten, or maybe it just went over my head. I think that our main story takes place in the mid 1950s, 1955. We have part of a story here that's taking place in 1945. There's a couple of times throughout the book where I believe it doesn't always say the timeline that you're reading as you go through. So I think we have a couple of times where it's 1945 on the left-hand page, 1955 on the right-hand page. It makes it a little confusing. I don't quite know where this is going. There's some Hiroshima has happened. There's some nuclear bomb fear. There's some posturing from these kids in our 1945 scenario of, you know, how badass America is that we've been able to develop this bomb, and look at the power that we have now as a nation. There's some of that happening there. And in our 1955 scenario, we have our main character who is trying to figure out, or is it our main character? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I do find it a little confusing. I kind of need another issue to kind of solidify parts of the story for me. So one of our characters here is reading the Centennial State Medical Journal, talking about how schizophrenia was treated, and that seems to be something that maybe our main character here, this guy, is experiencing. We're being led to believe that he has some sort of schizophrenia. But what isn't very clear right now is how that relates to things that we saw happen in the first issue, where there's this sickness going around that's causing people to become out of control and commit these horrific crimes. So we do still get these beautiful moments from Jenna Cha where she's able to kind of create these really eerie looking figures and faces and things in the book. One of the things, I watched a House of Nerd video live stream a few weeks ago at this point, 2-3 weeks ago, I don't know. He interviewed Ronnie Nadler and Jenna Cha, and she was talking about her artistic process. All of this is digital, which kind of blows me away because it really, to my eye, it does not look digital at all. So I was kind of amazed to hear that she's creating this purely digitally. Yeah, pretty incredible stuff. There was a draw at the end, and I happened to be the winner. So I'm getting sent to me issue 1 signed by the both of them. And I think they're each putting in a little kind of drawing inside the book as well, too, which I'm very excited to get my hands on. Like I said, I'm on board for all 14 issues. There's no doubt about it. I just need the next one to kind of tie things up a little bit, to give us a little more where I can get a bit more of a sense of footing. Maybe I'm out to lunch on that and we're absolutely not going to get that. But I feel like I just have too many questions, and the questions after this issue aren't ones that I feel push the story along. I feel my questions are more about, I don't really know what's going on. I can't quite follow what you're trying to tell us here. So, which is a different kind of thing than mysteries that are left to be unfolded in another issue, if you get what I mean. And of course, we'll go to this last page here as our guy is having a little bout here, and he looks over at his mother, and her head starts kind of melting off her shoulders and landing on her plate. So, you know, we're getting him in the throes of one of his episodes here, and same thing happens to his father. And then again, we get this character in the background that we've seen in the first issue as well. So there's still stuff here. There's still some really nice creepy moments. I still really love the art. I'm still 100% on board for the 14 issues. I'm just hopeful that the next one is going to give us a little more of something to kind of hold on to. Kind of the opposite of that, issue 3 of Sacrificers. I feel like I know what's going on, and the couple of little nuggets where there is something hinted at, I feel like that's just enough to kind of keep me interested in reading more. This is a solid issue. I won't show you too much of this because there are some things, especially since this book just came out. I do feel like this is one that probably more people are going to read maybe than The Sickness, which I don't mind sometimes maybe showing you a little more than I should. But this one, I kind of want to let you discover it for yourself. So we get a look at the gods as they're having this gala event. Rick Remender, Max Fumiera, Dave McCaig on colors, and Russ Wooten doing the letters. So we get a little more background on these gods and their relation to each other, and possibly where our sacrificed children, I guess, or are getting sent to, and potentially, you're sort of led to believe that they're probably going to be sacrificed at this gala in some fashion, even though at the end of the last issue we did have our kind of reveal that everything was actually beautiful. Really nicely done. I think the 3 issues so far, he's really good at kind of getting this information out to you. Again, is he a guy that's like kind of remaking comic storytelling? I don't think so. He's just a solid storyteller, and you're either going to dig it or you're not. You're either going to be into it or you're not. I just like the idea of trying to follow this now for month after month. I don't think I've ever made it through an entire Rick Remender series, except for the Vengeance one that we just had there, whatever that one was called. But I think that was a bit different because that was a limited thing. We knew that it was going to be a shorter series. I've never made it through one of his long form stories from beginning to end, following it month to month. Even Fear Agent, there was so many gaps and so many things that I missed, especially when he changed publishers, where I wasn't able to follow it month from month. That's probably the other one that I followed pretty damn closely, though, because I was really taken with that story right from issue number 1. I dig this book. I'm absolutely going to keep picking it up. I like the experience of reading this one month to month, whereas Kaya, that we were talking about this afternoon from Wes Craig, I think that one works better when you read it in a big chunk all at once. This one, I think, really benefits from that monthly release. One that I thought I would like, actually, let's end on that one. Let's go to this one. This is The Devil's Cut from Distillery. Distillery is a company that has been started by Aram V and a host of other creators, both writers and artists. This is the first thing that they've put out. It's 11 short stories. They call them 11 unfiltered stories. I would say they're more of like a tease. You don't get a full story. You get a tease at potentially what the issues are that they're going to be putting out, or the comics they're going to be putting out over, I don't know, the next few months, I guess. I don't know when the first series actually starts, but we get a lot of great creators. Becky Cloonan and Tula Lute, Ram V, Scott Snyder, Brian Azzarello, Jock, James Tinian the Fourth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Francesco Francavilla, really a real good cross section of people. I don't have much to say about the individual stories, but overall, I really dug this. Yes, it's a bit frustrating that you only get a very, very small piece of a story, but I think that's what it's about, though. It's supposed to kind of whet your appetite and give you kind of a really good look at these are the kind of things that we're going to be doing at Distillery. Here's the type of stories that you can expect. Here's the range of stories that we're going to have. We have this, which is sort of like a super soldier, superhero type of story. The one that interested me the least, actually. But then we have like some sci-fi stuff. We got some horror stuff in here. We have some kind of colorful, almost comedic stories in here as well. We have one that looks like it's going to be a bit of a Western from Azzarello and Rizzo, which looks pretty great. So it's all good looking stuff. It's nice to get a little taste. I'm on board. I'm absolutely on board to see what else is going to come out. And there's a few of these that I absolutely will be trying. I've told my comic guy at 204 Comics to put everything Distillery on my pull list. After reading this, there may be one or two that I sort of back off on, but I'm willing to give at least the first issues a try. I think this one, I do like the Azzarello and Rizzo partnership, so this one I'll absolutely be reading. And his art looks quite a bit different than I'm used to, so that's promising as well. Here's the Francesca Francavilla, who's working with him on this one. So yeah, this is the Scott Snyder Francavilla one that apparently Gore Vidal, if he's still here, Gore Vidal was saying a guy at his comic shop was really loving. And I mean, Francavilla's art style is very much his own. I do like it. I don't remember much about this story, to be honest. I don't think this was one of the ones that really stuck with me. But either way, very cool idea. This came out a few weeks ago. I don't know how easy it is to find a copy, but yeah, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they can do. It's quite a list of names, that's for damn sure. And then finally, for tonight, is the Enfield Gang Massacre from Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips. They're doing this, That Texas Blood. I haven't read a single issue of that. This cover jumped out at me on the racks, and then we were talking about it on one of our Sunday chats as well. I think Jared Osborne was talking about this too. This cover is fantastic. I remember seeing it on the shelf, but I didn't pick it up to have a flip through it. I wish I did. I have number 1 and number 3. I have to now dig for number 2. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it or not. I'm surprised I still managed to find a copy of number 1, to be honest. What a book. I got to say, this is kind of, out of the kind of good reading that I did this week, I'd say that this is right up there as possibly my favorite thing that I read this week. And I think a lot of it has to do with the whole package itself. So we get this very kind of pulpy cover. Jacob obviously looking a lot like his father, but when you get into the book, you can see some differences. Inside page, we get credits, but it's done as kind of an old advertisement for these pistols. We get a nice layout of the chapter 1. The thing that you immediately discover is that this is fucking amazingly textured newsprint. It's pretty heavy, but it is unreal. That tactile difference, I found this book really drew me into the time, as like it really brought me to another place because of all of the kind of bells and whistles that are on it. But honestly, this paper choice I think is such an amazing choice, and it works so well. The colors, everything sits on these pages much differently. Obviously, different paper is going to do that, but I love the way this looks. I love the way this feels. I'm really interested in this story. I think it's been a really solid first issue. Again, we're not talking about stuff that's mind-blowing or complicated. We have a group of bad guys. We have a group of good guys. We have an event that's taken place that looks like potentially, we don't know yet, it might be trying to be pinned on our bad guys. But like I said, we don't know anything. We just have that is by far a spoiler. That's just kind of really standard. It feels like a pretty standard premise for a story of this type. We do get a bit of violence here, and I think it's handled pretty well. Like I think in stuff like this, you can see that that isn't Sean Phillips. This is Jacob, and some of the faces, the close-ups and things, you can see that, yeah, there might be hints of his dad, especially in the way that he colors some of these scenes. And I know that that's also partially due to he is coloring. He's been doing a lot of coloring for the Brubaker Phillips duo as well. So I know that that's why it's going to resonate that way as well. But I love this. Love that panel a lot. I think the coloring in there is top notch. So when we get to the end of the story, we get a write-up that says it's reproduced from a July 1996 issue of the Texas Record, talking about the Enfield Gang massacre. So I don't know if this is a true account of a group of people, or if this is just something else that's added to add to that potential realism. This talks about how when it comes to some of these gangs and some of these stories, things get left out of the records. The story kind of grows. What you're reading isn't necessarily what actually happened in real life. So kind of helps blur that line if that is the case, if that is all fake. And of course, we get a couple of ads here. Even with the ads, though, it doesn't really spoil the overall package. Preview of the cover number 2. They're all connecting covers. And then cover number 3 goes right here. So this whole mini series is going to have a bunch of connected covers, which I'm a sucker for that kind of idea too. And then on the very back page, we get the reward poster for the Enfield Gang, for the death of Montgomery Enfield, for the killing of Montgomery Enfield, rather. So $1,000 reward. Amazing book. Great first issue. I haven't even flipped through issue 3. I want to wait to get issue 2 and then read them back to back, but I don't even want to open this one up. I don't want to see what's waiting for me. So gonna try to see if I can find it maybe tomorrow, see if I can find number 2. I think that's it. Thanks very much for hanging out, everybody. As I said, next Monday we'll do another chat on my channel. If you're around, join us. If not, I'll be back next Monday night to do another wrap up of everything I've read. Getting closer to that 500 comic goal. I think I'm at 464 or 465 books. So I'm creeping in on it there. Hope you have a good week, and we'll talk to you.